Welcome to Politics for Patriots. Here's your host, the eviscerator of progressive nonsense, the executioner of imbecility, and the grim reaper of BS, Eddie Zipper.
All right, welcome to episode 95 of the Politics for Patriots podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, whenever you subscribe to a conservative podcast, a liberal somewhere sheds a tear.
A Happy Meal? We'll get you one of those Happy Meals. You got a Happy Meal? Can we get a Happy Meal? Will somebody get the kid a Happy Meal?
All right, last Thursday was Halloween, so House Democrats decided that was the perfect day to have themselves a witch hunt. They voted on opening a formal impeachment inquiry against President Trump. That vote turned out to be a disaster for Democrats. Now we know why Nancy tried to open this thing up via a press conference instead of via a vote, which is the way that it's supposed to be done. Now we know the reason. This vote was a disaster for the House Democrats. You may be saying, what do you mean, Eddie? How can this be a disaster for Democrats? They won. Winning is a good thing. Losing is a disaster. Believe me, when this thing was over, Speaker Pelosi was not jumping up and down with glee, yelling, "We got him, we got him." I guarantee you, she was looking forlornly into the distance, going,
"I've made a huge mistake."
Republicans won the day on Thursday. They didn't have the most votes, but that doesn't matter. Every House Democrat in the entire media was blindsided by this vote. I suspect Pelosi was not blindsided. She must have known. It's the reason that she didn't hold a vote to begin with. There was never at any point a question over the yays. Would the yays be more than the nays, or would... No, everybody knew it was a foregone conclusion that this vote would end with more votes for yay than for nay. The only question going into it was who would break ranks. How many Republicans was really the important part. How many Republicans would break ranks with the party? In a bipartisan system like we have, that's a good measure. That's the best measure of how serious the allegation is. Despite popular talking points, if Trump shot someone on Fifth Avenue, the vote to begin an impeachment inquiry would be unanimous. As the seriousness of the accusation drops from there, you go down from murder to some other things. As that drops, so too do the number of Republican votes that you're going to be able to get. Trump murders somebody on Fifth Avenue, they get all the Republican votes. Then from there, as the seriousness of the allegation drops, so too do the number of Republican votes that you're going to be able to grab. That's just how it works. That's why we go around going, oh, bipartisan, it's bipartisan, bipartisan. You hear the word all the time. It means something. It's a measure. Legislators never stop saying it. Why? Because something that is partisan has no credibility. Bipartisanship adds credibility to it. And so when something is bipartisan, they never let you forget it. They go, oh, this is bipartisan. This is bipartisan. He voted, it's bipartisan. It gives something credibility because you're saying it's not just our party doing this. The other party, people from the other party are with us on this. It's bipartisan. It can't be wrong. That's why bipartisanship matters. That's where the credibility comes from. You can ask Nancy Pelosi, who back in March said that she would not support impeaching Trump unless it was something bipartisan. Unless it was bipartisan, she said back in March. Nobody knew if Republicans were going to stay united on this or if someone was going to come over. I think most of the media thought that a couple or a handful of Republicans would break away from the party and vote for this inquiry. It's just an inquiry. Right? Being the Republican who breaks ranks within the party is generally a free opportunity to be lauded by the media for, a couple days. It's just like the end of the movie Rudy. if you are a Republican and you vote against the Republican Party, you break ranks with the Republican Party, the mainstream media plays hero music and they hoist you up on their shoulders and you throw your arm up in the air and they freeze frame it and you get to be a hero for a day or until you piss them off again. There's a whole niche industry of politics dedicated to being a Republican who stands up to Republicans. It's like a whole market for people who are Republicans, but they just go on TV and say that Republicans are wrong about everything. Right? The mainstream media will make you famous if you are willing to do that. Take Anthony Scaramucci. He is currently building up a public profile based solely on, I used to like Trump and now I hate him. He just wrote an op-ed with Lanny Davis. It's in the Washington Post. It is legitimately maybe the dumbest thing I've ever read. It says that the House should impeach Trump, but they should only hold a Senate trial if Republicans are willing to publicly pledge that they are willing to vote to remove Trump from office. Yes, that's not how it works. It's like the lady from the, that's not how any of this works. Yes, that's a real thing that a couple of dummies wrote in the Washington Post. Let's do the half of the process that's controlled by Democrats and let the Democrats finish their Oppo research operation. Let's smear the president with a one-sided investigation. I'm doing finger quotes. You can't see them, but investigation. Let's actually vote to impeach him, and then let's just quit right there. That is outrageously stupid. The logic in this op-ed is akin to like,
this is ancient Earth's most foolish program. Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other five?
That's my favorite. That one makes me laugh every time. Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other five? I swear to you, 90% of the time, that's exactly what Democrat logic sounds like to me. Just alien. You try to tell a Democrat anything and they say, we reject your Earth logic. All right, so in their op-ed, they say it's very important. I mean, it's crucial to our democracy or something that senators not prejudge the outcome. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Republican senators. It's fine for Democrats. Here's what they say. If such public announcements of open-mindedness by at least 20 Republican jurors do not occur within a month or so after the House impeachment resolution, then we suggest a Senate trial would be a waste of time and unwise. That's what it says. No mention of the Democratic senators who are literally running for president and campaigning for impeachment. They're jurors too, bud. Should they announce their open-mindedness? No. Mooch hasn't thought about that because he's a simple-minded person who sees a way to raise his public profile and just goes with it. He doesn't actually care about arguments. Has there ever been, this is kind of a side note, but has there ever been a more appropriately descriptive nickname than Mooch? I mean, yes, that is like the perfect descriptor for him, Mooch. That's what he is. He's some kind of name recognition parasite. If you have big name recognition or a big public profile, he just latches onto you. He's like one of those fish, those little fish with suckers on them, and they latch onto a shark, and then the shark eats something and tears it up, and the little parasite fish, grabs the little bits, the little bits of viscera that the shark misses. That's Anthony Scaramucci. Nobody anywhere had ever heard of him before, and then he took his little suckers and he latched on to Big Shark Trump and he grabbed as many little bits as he could. Anyway, this show is not about Mooch the Mooch. It's about why Republicans won the impeachment vote. We already heard Pelosi say back in March how important it is for this to be bipartisan. That's where credibility comes from in the legislature. It comes from bipartisanship. It comes from the ability to say this isn't just one party doing something unilaterally. This is people from the other party agreeing with it. Bipartisanship. Okay, we look back at a little bit of history here. The vote to open an impeachment inquiry on Richard Nixon, 410 to 4. Like I said, the more legitimate the accusation is, the more bipartisan support you are going to get. That's just simply the way it works. Okay, 31 Democrats voted to open the impeachment inquiry against Clinton, despite the fact that the Clinton administration was lobbying behind the scenes, according to a CNN piece that was written at the time. It says this: Clinton said Wednesday each member should cast a vote of principle and conscience. Even so, White House aides worked behind the scenes to make their case to Democrats, because the fewer defectors, the easier it would be for them to portray the inquiry as politically motivated. I guarantee you, this is a guarantee. I guarantee you that if one single Republican had voted for this impeachment inquiry, all you would hear about is that it was a bipartisan vote. Why? Because that's where the credibility comes from. That was all anybody in the know was waiting for. That was the only question of this vote that took place last Thursday, was how many Republicans would peel off. Final answer? 0. They didn't get one single Republican. I promise you, that was a gut punch for Nancy Pelosi and the House Democratic leadership. When that vote was over and she saw the goose egg in the GOP column, I guarantee you this is what went through her mind.
This is Armageddon.
It was the end of the world. It was a disaster. They were all prepared to be able to claim it was bipartisan. All they needed was one Republican. All they needed was one Republican to peel off from the pack and say, yeah, I'm going to get Trump. That was all they needed, was one. And I guarantee you the mainstream media was prepared to announce to America all day long that it was a bipartisan vote. All they needed in order to do that was one Republican. Of course, what you will never hear about from the mainstream media is the fact that there was a bipartisan vote last Thursday. It was the nay vote. Not only did the Democrats not manage to convince one single Republican of the legitimacy of their accusations of impeachable conduct, they couldn't even get every Democrat on board with it. They lost 2 Democrats. It's not very many, but they didn't gain any Republicans. So the only side of the vote that can claim to be bipartisan was the nay side. Here's what CNN wrote when Republicans could only get 31 Democrats to vote for the Clinton impeachment inquiry. Quote, Republicans characterized the outcome as bipartisan. I guarantee you in this situation, I'm saying I guarantee you a lot, but I'm just very sure of it. I'm not going to say it anymore. I'm sorry. If one Republican had voted yes, I assure you, they'd have just said, oh, it's bipartisan. We got one Republican on board. It's bipartisan. It was a bipartisan vote. Nancy said it had to be bipartisan. And look, oh my gosh, it was bipartisan. Bi means 2. The Democrats voted for it. A Republican voted for it. That's 2 parties. That's what bi means. It was bipartisan. Too bad, so sad. They didn't get a single one. I tweeted right after the vote that the vote was embarrassing for Pelosi because the nay vote was bipartisan and the yay vote was not. Liberals on Twitter flipped out. I was actually surprised at how many just jumped on. I mean, they couldn't stand it. I'm going to read you some of the things they said. The resolution passed. The only thing embarrassing is this tweet. Wow, burn. Somebody said, that is a bad take, dude. Do better. Well, Guys, Democrats have the strongest arguments. That is so well researched and well thought out. Somebody else said, at least 2 Democrats voted how they felt. No Republicans had the guts to vote how they felt. This is an embarrassment. That's my favorite one out of all of them. Some dude named Rick on Twitter with 12 followers knows how people feel. What an amazing talent. He must have a crystal ball or a Ouija board or something. One person said, she can do it without a vote. Okay. Yeah, she did do it without a vote. And then, as for some reason, she decided that she needed a vote. And the vote did not come out pleasantly for her. Well, the point is, they jumped all over that tweet because they hated what it said. They hated it because it was right. The very first opinion piece I read about the vote was from The Atlantic, and I mean, it came fast. It came out about 5 minutes after the vote. Clearly, the person had already written it before the vote in expectation. You know, maybe touch up a little bit and then put it right out so that you're the first one to have an opinion piece. I mean, this was a quick take. The Atlantic, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with The Atlantic hates Trump all day long. This opinion writer, obviously, yeah, I mean, you can read the opinion and you can see the opinion writer hates Trump. But here's the title of the piece. Trump's first impeachment win. Immediately, the anti-Trump Atlantic is calling it a win for Donald Trump. And it was, and that opinion is correct. The writer, though, you could tell the writer is just lamenting this, that the writer is not happy. The writer is not a Trump supporter and so is not happy to be announcing Trump's first impeachment win. So the writer laments, not a single House Republican voted with Democrats to affirm the impeachment. Not Representative Mark Amodei of Nevada, who had briefly backed the inquiry in the early going. Or Representative Will Hurd of Texas, the ex-CIA officer, or even Representative Francis Rooney of Florida. Count this initial vote as a win for the president. It's very boo-hooey. All right, back to quoting. This resolution, merely affirming an impeachment investigation, not judging any articles themselves, should have been the easiest for Republicans to go along with. Wow. Yes. As weepy as that opinion is, it is 100% dead on accurate. And the media is just full of this kind of belly aching ever since. A piece in 538 was lamenting how partisan Congress is. Oh my gosh, a bunch of people disagree with me. It must be because of their partisan rancor.
No, wait, let me say something.
This vote absolutely crushed the spirit of Democrats who know how Congress works. For the strategist operative types, the ones who don't know how it works, they're just happy. They're like, oh, yay, we're going to impeach Trump. They don't care. They don't know how much it matters for that vote to have been at least bipartisan enough to get one person on board. For the strategist operative types, for the politicians, for the House leadership, this was a total gut punch. You can tell from the spin how desperate they are to explain away the 100% partisan vote. Delusional anti-Trumper Bill Kristol, who just can't stop saying wildly moronic things, went with this spin. Quote, having called around some, reassured in my judgment that those House Republicans open to voting for impeachment simply decided to stick with the party yesterday and to save their dissent for the real vote. No point telegraphing the jailbreak to the prison guards ahead of time.
Good one.
Yeah, that makes sense. So many representatives are going to vote no to the inquiry and then yes on the articles of impeachment. Yeah, there's no smarter move if you're in Congress than lulling your constituents into a false sense of security and then blindsiding them. I mean, that's just smart politics. Okay, Bill, that is the most monumentally stupid take I have seen on this yet. Listen to Joe Lockhart on New Day. Joe Lockhart, like 99% of people who are allowed to speak on CNN's airwaves, hates Trump's guts. He's an old Clinton press secretary. He has huge anti-Trump meltdowns on a daily basis. And even he gets how bad this was. Listen to him try to explain it away. It's pathetic.
Joe, yesterday, it was historic. It's only the fourth time, obviously, in American history. It's, Nancy Pelosi and others have said it was a somber day. Nobody goes into Congress to impeach a president. Something has gone wrong if that's what's happening. That's one side. Then we just had Matt Schlapp on, a big champion of the president, big supporter, who said it was a good day for Republicans because none broke on this vote. It was not bipartisan. No Republicans voted to begin the impeachment inquiry, and the polls show in battleground states they're very good for the president. So was it a good day for Democrats or Republicans or neither?
Well, it's indicative of how perverse the political conversation goes, that when a president takes a step towards impeachment, his supporters say it's a good day. But having said that, I think we can overread the importance of yesterday's vote. It was a procedural vote. It was about the process. Republicans, have a legitimate complaint that they're not even, the power is not even in setting the rules. So in one sense, it was easy for them to say, we don't like this process, we're voting no. It's much harder when they start dealing with the underlying actions, the corruption, the abuse of power. I think that's a much tougher vote for Republicans.
The next vote will be harder.
The next vote, that's the one. That's the one we're going to do super great. The next vote will be better. I mean, this guy is a Democratic anti-Trump spin doctor. He was a press secretary. That's the best you could do? But you can see what's important is his whole attitude towards the vote that just happened. And his whole attitude towards the vote, Allison Camerata's like, it's the big vote that everyone has talked about literally all week. Should it matter at all? And Joe Lockhart is like,
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
So all you're getting from the media right now is that Republicans voted against this because they are ultra partisan. So there are only two states of being for Republican representatives. You either agree with the Democrats or you are an immorally partisan coward. Those are the two options. It's like I'm taking a poll. I'm a pollster now. Do you believe that President Trump has committed an impeachable offense? Your choices are A, yes, Trump has committed an impeachable offense, or B, I kick puppies. There are no other options. What? What do you mean there are no other options? I don't think Trump has committed an impeachable offense. Interesting. And how hard do you kick these puppies, you evil bastard? The media is covering up the possible explanation that maybe, just maybe, and I know this sounds crazy, maybe lots of people just disagree with Democrats. And we're talking about people who haven't kicked any puppies at all. Yet somehow, some way, they disagree with Democrats. The really awful thing about the media, consciously or unconsciously, probably sometimes it's one case, probably sometimes it's the other, but they are always operating on the assumption that Democrats are just right. That's not a good assumption. In fact, it is a terrible assumption. But it's disgracefully omnipresent within the mainstream media. Democrats are right, so that means that if Republicans disagreed with them, are the Republicans doing it because of strategy, or are they just evil? We're going to have to dig into this one and figure it out. It couldn't be that they just disagree. Bottom line here, the Democrat Party has created an absolute quagmire for itself. Support for impeachment is dropping. They need it to be going up. It's going down. You remember the fervor a couple weeks ago? A poll showed a majority supported impeaching Trump and removing him from office, and the media was all over that thing. They were on top of that poll like a dog on Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. All day, the news was like, stunning new poll, breaking a stunning new poll. It says, oh my gosh, everyone supports impeaching Trump. I mean, it was all day, all over the media was that poll, and you couldn't escape hearing about that poll 95 times a minute throughout the entire mainstream media. They bring on like a panel of 75 experts to talk about the poll. They're like, is this poll the worst thing that has ever happened to any president in the history of the United States? Everybody on the panel suddenly becomes the aliens from Sesame Street.
Oh!
Yep.
My goodness, is this the most important poll ever taken?
Yep.
Based on this poll, is it correct to believe that people from sea to shining sea believe the orange man is bad?
Yep.
And that's the way it was on CNN. What you don't hear about over and over in the mainstream media is the fact that those numbers are now trending downward. Like every phony scandal the Democrats scheme up, this one was like Beto O'Rourke. All exciting at first, but by the end, nothing but a messy disaster. Since the Ukraine story snowballed, support among Republicans hit a high of 15%. That's support for impeaching President Trump. That number is now down 4 points to 11%. Support among independents hit a high of 48. Now it's at 45. Support among Democrats hit a high of 85. Now it's at 83. The media fervor drove up the numbers, and now they are falling. That was according to the 538 average of the polls, by the way, national polls. This is much less favorable in places like Pennsylvania, Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Arizona. All those swing states that Trump won in 2016, this isn't nearly as popular there. It's only popular in the national polls, and that number is falling. If they want this to succeed, they need that number to be going up, not down. Those numbers are about to change some more because when independents see how partisan the inquiry vote was, which they've now seen, those numbers are going to drop even more. You won't hear this in the mainstream media, but the vote confirmed what Republicans have been alleging all along. This is a partisan attack. People suspected it, and by holding a vote, Nancy Pelosi stupidly proved it. Bipartisanship adds credibility. Total lack of bipartisanship destroys credibility. If Democrats actually plan to impeach Trump, they better hurry because the support is disappearing. All right, I hope you enjoyed the show. I have a new podcast coming out on November 5th with my friends Matt and Scott from Politics. It's called Every Election Ever and Beer. It's an American history podcast. It's about the history of elections and also beer in the United States of America. Please download that podcast. It comes out on November 5th. Your support would be greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. I hope you enjoyed the show. That's it for today. I'm out of here.
You just listened to Politics for Patriots with Eddie Zipper. Email the show at patriots@eddiezipper.com and please subscribe.